Good morning, everyone. I will be presiding over today's meeting in absence of our chair, Carrie Hayes, and we'll call this meeting officially to order, the June 2nd, 2025 meeting of the IDB. Confirmation of the meeting advertisement, and we do have a quorum present today. And at this time, I will take a motion to approve the minutes from the April monthly meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
These are approved. Is there anyone here today who would like to address the board this morning? Anyone? Yes, do I see somebody?
Yep, she's raised her hand. Come on up. Right up there. You want to address the board before?
She's next.
You're going to be on the, okay, just on your item, or do you want to have an opportunity to speak now?
Oh, it will come up on the item.
On the
Okay,
item.
no
Okay.
problem.
Sorry.
Perfect.
No problem.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll move into the first resolution. We have a resolution authorizing the chair or vice chair to execute all documents related to the donation of real property along Volkswagen Drive to TDOT to be used as right-of-way as part of the Ferdinand
Ferdinand Peach.
Way Projects Improvement. TDOT PIN 102361, Federal Project, HPP 9202. Who's here to speak to that?
Good morning, Board. Sharita Allen, Senior Advisor for Economic Development and Workforce Development here at the City of Chattanooga. This project is part of the ongoing infrastructure development that happens around Enterprise South Industrial Park. And so these improvements to Ferdinand Peach, again, benefit all of the projects there, not just for a particular company.
And this is just for the right-of-way to get along this area, correct?
It is, correct. It's just a right-of-way.
Okay.
Move we approve the resolution.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, resolution passes. Thank you. The next is a presentation, Chattanooga Housing Authority request for project funding. It's a two-part. Part A, a resolution authorizing the allocation of $1.5 million from the Industrial Development Board, renewing Chattanooga account NR 17 to the Chattanooga Housing Authority for Phase 1 renovation and expansion of the James A. Henry Hub at 1241 Grove Street as part of the city's and CHA's successful $50 million Choice Neighborhoods implementation grant for the One West Side Transformation Plan. So we'll start with that one.
Good morning, Board. So the staff is bringing forward this request. I do have a staff report that provides an overview of it. So the funding request would be allowed through the state statute that allows the IDB to control funds that come into a particular fund that's located under the economic development fee portion. This request aligns with the One Chattanooga plan to grow household income for all Chattanoogans through workforce development and skills training. It also helps refine competitive advantages and clusters within the cities. It also aligns with Chattanooga Climb's higher strategic plan, which is developing skills for the new economy and growing stronger businesses. It falls also under the background and history. In 2018, the IDB created a fund account that was NR 17 called Renewing Chattanooga that allows the IDB to provide funding for eligible catalytic economic development projects in disadvantaged communities. The funds can also be used for economic development projects, investing in or rehabilitation of blighted and vacant properties. I will cover the fiscal impact, and then we will have the Chattanooga Housing Authority provide a presentation. We will not be voting on this item today. This item will be voted on in the next meeting. Today's a presentation. And so the fiscal impact, the current fund from which the funds would be withdrawn, the current balance is $2,873,422. The fund request is for $1.5 million. Approval of this would leave a balance of $1,373,422. It is worth noting that through the remainder of 2025 and through spring of 2026, the IDB will have incoming funds of roughly $1,348,037. Those funds would be coming from future economic development fees of existing pilot projects. That's roughly that's $459,037. Additional funds would be coming through a C&E, Chattanooga Neighborhood Enterprise Small Business Program reinvestment, funds that were sent to C&E in 2000 that were not expended for economic development activities with small businesses throughout the community. Those funds are coming back to the city and the IDB. It says in your program report that's $538,000. It is actually $585,000. We also have neighborhood reinvestment revolving loan fund repayments. Few members of this board may recall that during COVID, the city stood up a revolving loan fund program to help keep businesses afloat. 500,000 of, and it was roughly $2 million, but 500,000 came from the IDB with the stipulation those funds come back to the IDB in 2029. To date, $331,000 has been repaid. Those funds are currently sitting with Southeast Tennessee Development District that is administering that revolving loan fund program on behalf of the city and the IDB. So we're asking for those funds to come back at this time. So that would be $331,000 coming back in. And then the last sort of incoming funds for 2025 and spring of 2026 is related to the high growth, high jobs investment program that was created in March here at the IDB. That's a matching program. So, and we actually have an item on today's agenda that's related to that. So essentially that fund is a grant that goes to businesses that create verified jobs. The city, the IDB pays half of those funds from economic development fees, and then the county provides a match. And so this $20,000 that's incoming, that's where the IDB will be invoicing the county for its portion of that high growth, high jobs grant. So again, roughly $1,348,037 that will be coming back into the IDB in this year and spring of 26. At this point, we will ask the Chattanooga Housing Authority to provide an overview and presentation, and I would like to say that the letter in your packet from May 15th is a letter from the Housing Authority to the mayor asking for assistance in meeting a funding gap on this particular project. The mayor then has a letter dated May 20th in your packet where the mayor is asking the board to hear this item and consider funding for it, keeping in mind the board is up to vote for this in July. And so with that, I would like to pull up the presentation for the Housing Authority, and then they will provide you a presentation, and we'll go from there.
Do you have a clicker, Sharon? Yes. Oh, there it is. Just hit the right one? All right, try that. It's working, great. Good morning, and thank you for inviting us to be here today. I'm accompanied by my colleague, Mr. Mike Sabin. Mike is the Director of Real Estate Development at the CHA and oversees the budget and the real intricacies of the James A. Henry Reconstruction Project. I'm going to run through this PowerPoint pretty quickly because many of you may know about this project. This is the James A. Henry Hub. The James A. Henry building is owned by the CHA currently. It's an integral part of the One West Side project because it's going to serve as a hub to serve all of the residents of the community. As you can see in the picture, the front of the school in the top middle section is the existing school before we started construction. And if you come down to the second row on the far right side, you'll see that we're on the south side of the building, we're actually adding 4,400 square feet for the creation of a medical clinic. The history is very interesting. The building was created in 1937, so it comes with a lot of issues as we're undergoing construction. It was named after the first principal, African-American principal, James A. Henry, who was the principal at the Howard High School. Phase one involves the renovation of the existing school in addition to the health center that I just mentioned. Tricon began construction on August 5th, and we intended to open the school by August 5th of 2025 in order to accommodate 117 Head Start students so they could start the school year there. Due to some construction delays, we're now looking at a final date of the end of 2025, and plans are that Head Start would move in sometime during the first quarter of 2026. As you can see, the amenities include 117 Head Start seats, which is an addition of basically 60 more than were originally on the west side. We have to put in special playgrounds, industrial kitchens. In the school itself, we're going to have incubator space, classrooms for programming, and of course, Erlanger is running the health center. During this process, the city and the CHA applied for a $50 million HUD Choice Neighborhoods Implementation Grant, and we were very happy. We were the top-ranking application in the nation. We received the grant last July 16th, and embedded in the grant is a couple of things. It's about housing, neighborhood, and people. And the people plan involves addressing education, health, income and employment, and early learning. As part of the grant application, we were required to maximize the points under the grant to find $20 million in leverage support, and we were able to do that thanks to the generosity of many of the nonprofit partners in Chattanooga. So just so you can see some of the providers and what this funding will do is, obviously, Head Start will be there. The Boys and Girls Club pledged $3.3 million. They will be present in phase 2 of the plan, in a large gymnasium and meeting space, but in the meantime, before the school is finished, they do plan to provide programming. We have the Chattanooga Area Food Bank that's pledged over $300,000 to provide food on a monthly basis to the families. And then, of course, Erlanger had pledged almost $2.7 million to provide a full-on health clinic, which will include dental services, which is a first for us. So this just gives you an idea of the various partners in the city who have come to the table, and I won't read them. I think they'll all be pretty familiar to you, but it's been a really great outpouring of support. So let's talk about the budget. So when we start, the budget right now for phase 1, projected budget is almost $19 million. And as you can see, this is when we started phase 1, we had total sources of just about $22 million. And unfortunately, as you can see highlighted in yellow, during this first part of 2025, we became convinced that we would not see the federal earmark of $5 million from the help of Congressman Fleischman's office. And it seems that the Department of Energy Seaside grant that the city had applied for last year in the amount of $2.9 million will not be forthcoming during this phase 1 piece of the project. So what does that do to us? I plugged into this. The budget remains the same, the $19 million roughly. I have plugged in the generous offer of the city of Chattanooga to give us a total of $6 million, which includes the 1.5 from the IDB. And as you can see, just tracking through the other funding that is there, brings us to a total sources of just over $20 million. So plenty of money. It's about $1 million to get through phase 1, and it will definitely help us to open the school and start delivering the services that we've promised to the community. I'll just tell you briefly about phase 2, and obviously the construction start dates are a little bit off now pending funding availability. We had a good chunk of money prepared for phase 2 that it's not there right now, but we're still looking for it. Phase 2 would involve the creation of the gymnasium, a multi-purpose room, an IT center, kitchen, meeting spaces, and office space. Phase 3 will involve the renovation of the existing Sheila Jennings Park that the city owns, and that would start in Q1 2027. And this is where the residents wanted to see community gardens, multi-purpose fields, a splash pad was high on their list. And then the last phase is just infrastructure and parking behind the building. That's the high-level overview of the project. I'm happy to entertain any questions you may have about where we are now or anything that's you're thinking about.
Any questions for Ms.?
Were there any environmental issues related to this project, including asbestos, notably?
Did we have asbestos, Mike? No, it has been removed, hadn't it?
I want to say that had been removed by the time we officially started this project.
So asbestos removed, but foundry sand. We spent just over $2 million in the discovery of foundry sand, the remediation, the removal of the foundry sand. We also had expenses with installing a new elevator shaft and new elevator equipment. And then that 2 million foundry sand also includes, in order to avoid it in the latter part of Phase 1, is we put these pylons in so that we don't have to dig into the sand, and they have a special name. What's the name of?
Helical piers.
Helical piers, that's why he's here. I wouldn't know a helical pier if you walked in the room, but basically, to me, they're like columns so that we don't have to dig up the foundry sand. They're embedded in the sand, and then we can build on top of it.
Okay.
So I'm curious, is there a funding gap? You guys lost 8 million, you're asking for 6, so is there 2 million that you guys have already taken care of, or?
Well, the 7.9 million that we lost was actually a piece in the first, can I go back? Let me show you this. Right here. The 7.9 gave us total sources of 22 million, when in fact we needed about 19. So when we plug in your 6 million, we're now at 20 million, just about $1 million over what we need. So right now, we don't feel like we have a funding gap for Phase 1.
Okay. So you guys just started out with a buffer, so it just kind of eats into that.
We had a bigger buffer when we started.
Okay.
Now we got a little buffer. And,
okay.
you know, construction is construction, the numbers change. So these numbers will continue to morph. But I will tell you honestly, one of my primary jobs at the Housing Authority is to be out looking for money every single day, because this is just the community hub. We started Phase 1 residential development about a month ago. We're building 230 units there, and that's fully funded. And then we're in design on Phase 2, which is 144 units. And invariably, during these tough economic times, there are gaps. So just keep looking, just keep knocking on doors and asking.
Is there a chance this may come through, or is this done for the year?
What?
The 7 that we're canceling?
Yeah,
I mean, is there a chance this would come
Yeah.
through in 30, 60, 90 days, or has this been out of the budget?
What I understand is the city had asked us to put in a letter of support to request the $5 million earmark for the 2025 budget. So that request, I believe, has gone in. At least we've sent our support of that. I'm not familiar with where we are with the Department of Energy grant. The last I knew, which was on April 18th, the staffing had all taken kind of a buyout, but that would be a city question. Is that right? Yeah.
I guess my question, I mean, it sounds like you've done a whole lot of background work and put a lot of effort and time into this, and it sounds like a great project. I'd be surprised if any of us are opposed to the project itself. My one question in my mind is whether this is the proper body to be making up the deficit that you're describing to us, and that we're an industrial development board. And I understand from the standpoint of our powers that's cited in Ms. Allen's very helpful memo is broad, but it does say in the statute that's cited, in furtherance of the purposes for which this corporation was organized. I don't know that this corporation was organized to help housing development, neighborhood development, that kind of a project. I can say from my experience on this industrial development board, I don't know that I've encountered this kind of thing before. And so from that standpoint, as a member of this body, I would want to have some kind of legal clarification or opinion in writing that says, yes, this is a permissible use of IDB funds, because this is, I mean, again, it's a great project. I'm not there saying that. I'm just questioning
Right.
whether
No,
we're the
good
proper
question.
body.
We all had that same question. And so there was recent legislation at the state level that allows IDBs to now include housing projects as eligible projects under the IDB. When this first came to us, we were looking at the employment and the income piece as being an eligible project, because the proposal is for there to be what was then called an American Job Center, which previously was out at Eastgate Town Center. And again, that's a hub funded through the Department of Labor. It's an access point for residents, not just part of this particular complex, but residents in the city would be able to access employment opportunities and job training through that American Job Center hub. That would be part of the James A. Henry project. There's also a proposal for a future kitchen incubator, shared incubator space, again, small business creation. All of that does fall under the purview of the Industrial Development Board. So those are those pieces. And then, again, the recent state statute that added housing projects as eligibility for industrial development boards, that was in the last 6 weeks?
Yes. But multifamily has always been there for a while on there for the multifamily aspect for our housing. And so that's another aspect here. This is not just single-family housing as well.
I just had a question, because I'm familiar with most of these entities, but I guess not with how this program, how the hub would specifically work. Obviously, it's for the neighborhood, but there's a lot of adjacent areas. So are there gonna be restrictions on who can use, like, these income and employment services outside of maybe what, like, I know the job center probably requires, I don't even know if the job center does have a specific requirement, but are there any that are gonna be put in, or is it open to the community, like tailored for the neighborhood, but open to?
It's tailored for the neighborhood, but open to the community, because overall, over a 10-year period, we will be putting in 1,783 new mixed-income units. So the community is going to expand. And just to follow up on Ms. Allen's comments, I think it might be helpful for you to know that the average income of people on the west side is under $15,000 a year. So this hub is going to be life-altering for the residents who are going to be able to use it, because it's just not a one-stop shop. We're going to be addressing all of the possible needs to help the families increase their income and really help their families move forward. Part of the CNI grant, the Choice Neighborhoods Implementation Grant, includes the hiring of Urban Strategies, Inc. They will be with us for the entire 8-year project, and we have dedicated $10 million to these efforts. They have 7 people working on the west side. They started working actively at the start of the year, got to full complement of staff in April, and they are touching every single resident, doing surveys, and they've already begun connecting them with jobs. And in fact, AGC was in my office last week. We're talking about all the various services they can get there. So it's pretty all-encompassing, if you will.
So going back to my question, one point, Mr. Noblin, are you comfortable saying here today that this is a permissible use of these funds?
Yes, sir. TCA 753-318 gives the ability for industrial development corporations to help housing opportunity developments. That was passed a little bit longer than we thought on that end of it, on the front end of it, but effective May the 9th of 2024.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Okay, well, thank you very much for considering this request. Really appreciate your support. Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll move on to Part B of this one, and this is a resolution authorizing the transfer of $1.5 million from the Industrial Development Board IDB Pilots Fund account NR14 to the IDB Renewing Chattanooga account NR17, which is created for the eligible catalytic economic development projects in disinvested communities for economic development projects, investing in or rehabilitation of blighted, vacant properties.
Board, this item, it would just be an accounting procedural item, which would be moving monies from the Economic Development Fee Fund into the account that was created for this particular type of project. It is worth noting that moving forward, if the board would like, we could, at the beginning of each fiscal year, fund those individual accounts, so that, for instance, the account from which this would be pulled currently has a balance in it. That's where in previous years, we would start July 1 of every year. We would look at our planogram and how many projects we thought we would be doing, and we would then fund all of the accounts at the beginning of the year, and then come back June 30th and report out on how each of those funds performed or how many grants we had in a particular fund account. We have not done that for the last 4 years or so. It's worth having a conversation with the board at a future planning session or education session as to how we'd like for those accounting funds to be set up, or we can continue to move as we are currently and with additional items that we have on the agenda today, which is if the item's approved, we then take the monies out of the main account and then fund the sub-account. Entirely up to the board how that works, but that's why this complementary agenda item is on here today. And that would need a vote at the next meeting when we bring the companion item up for vote.
Thank you. Our next item is an innovation grant request.
Actually, can I make one comment on that before? Because I don't know, I guess I have a question for Attorney Noblet. Do we have proxy voting on this, or is it just?
It's got to be in-person voting.
It's got to be in person?
Cannot have
Okay.
proxy voting.
So I might not be here for the next meeting, so I guess I want to put in my 2 cents really quick now, since we're on this topic.
Sure.
Because I was driving over here, and, I think what Mr. Rogers is probably thinking is, like, we don't want to be a piggy bank for every project or it's going to be tough economic times. We're going to have to start making, I think, hard decisions. But I was also driving over here thinking, we have this money in the bank that hasn't been spent. We don't really have a plan for what we want to do with it. And I think the summary of what Ms. Allen was saying is that it would take about half of the funds that we have in that fund right now, but then we're also looking at basically a replacement of 1.3 million coming in. So I think before today, I was like, this is a really big amount. I don't know how I feel about us spending the money on this, but I do know that this project has had a lot of work put into it in the neighborhood. It's going to be open for more than just the neighborhood. And having been in the American Job Center, having seen that they're doing substance use disorder kind of facilities there, I mean, they're really attacking it on a multifaceted aspect. Kind of, if I were here, if I can't make it next meeting, I'd probably lean towards it, because at some point, we're going to have to decide what we want to do with funds, and those have been sitting there for quite some time at this point. And so just thought I would add that. And I'm sure there'll be a lively discussion next meeting too. But.
Yes. And it's worth noting, Ms. McWright had to leave. She had a plane to catch. So they were headed to the airport from here. Yeah.
Okay, our next item is innovation grant request. So we have a resolution authorizing an innovation grant payment of $22,000 to InterSign Corporation for the creation of 22 new eligible jobs over the preceding 18 months, as verified by the Tennessee Department of Labor and Workforce Development Wage Report dated December 31st, 2024, and for the implementation of innovation and innovative equipment systems in accordance with Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 11, Article 18, Section 11, supporting local innovation initiatives to diversify the Chattanooga economy and increase wages, and to be funded from the remaining City of Chattanooga $170,000 allocation to account NR 18 Innovation Z 00313.
So quick overview, the Innovation District Grant was created in 2016. It was originally created as a grant program that was to grow innovation in and around a defined geographic area, which included the Edney Building, UTC, sort of downtown proper. At some point, roughly 2017, the boundaries were expanded to make it citywide. The goal of the program was to highlight local companies that were doing catalytic, innovative, disruptive technologies in their space. To date, we have only awarded 2 of these grants. This would be the 3rd one to come forward. We plan to sunset this program at the end of this year. We will have to go to City Council to sunset it because it was created by ordinance and the funds were moved over by ordinance through the City Council. And so that $170,000, again, $200,000 was moved over to start the program. We've only had drawdown of $30,000, and then moving forward, we will go back to council, ask them to sunset it. The funds will remain at the IDB, and then we will come to the IDB with a new grant program to be determined as to how to use the remaining balance of $170,000. We do have representatives from InterSign here to give a quick presentation. Staff is recommending approval of this. As with all of our small business grant programs that come before the Industrial Development Board, we verify all the job creations, we verify the job retention, we verify the wage requirements on that by asking them to submit their Department of Labor wage reports, and then we go through those reports, confirm the jobs, and then the grant amount is based on the number of jobs that were eligible. So in this case, the company applied for 22 positions that they felt were eligible. We confirmed those 22, so the request is for a $22,000 grant for this particular project. And if I could have InterSign come up and give a presentation. Not here? Okay, if we pull up the presentation, I will quickly go through it. And so, again, high level, looks like we got the dates. They may have gotten their dates wrong. They confirmed every day last week, we'll be here, we'll be here, we'll be here. So something clearly came up. So again, this is a local company. I'm sure you've seen it on Amnicola Highway. Nondescript building, not many people know kind of what happens in this building, but at the end of the day, again, this is a company that makes interior signage for lots of different companies that are well-known. Hospitality, hotel, office space. What's important to note is this is a company that has an exportable product or service, which means what they're making, they sell outside of our economy, which brings new dollars into our economy. These are the type of targeted industry companies that we'd like to see. And while it may not look like a large-scale manufacturer, at the end of the day, it is manufacturing. They are making products and services and selling those outside of the city. They're an industry leader, well-known, well-respected. They have utilized digital technology and 3D printing to change the way that they do production, which is new in this industry. So instead of, for instance, going out and seeking parts from other manufacturers or parts out of the country, they're now manufacturing those small component parts in-house. Let's see, and then you'll see here in the last 12 months alone, they've invested more than $1 million in new digital equipment. That is include training of some employees, corresponding employee training for that equipment. And moving forward, they plan to add additional equipment as well. Digital technology there. This is where they talk a little bit about the 3D printing integration of photos of signage where they've used the 3D printing models. And again, that's just a high-level overview of that particular company and the project. In your packet, you will see the grant agreement. You'll see verification of their city license, county license. Everything's in compliance. And so for our new IDB members, when we bring projects forward, small business projects forward to the board, we have already verified the employment numbers, we've verified they're eligible, they've got their licenses intact, all of those kinds of things, and that they're in good standing with the state as well. And so that's high-level overview of the innovation grant incentive and the request from this particular company that is eligible to receive it. So we would just need a vote from IDB to approve or deny.
Are there any questions about this first from anyone? Motion,
Motion to approve?
is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. The next item is a resolution authorizing the grant payment of $9,375 to AIS Enclosure Systems, Chattanooga LLC, for the creation of 22 full-time jobs with an average annual wage of $59,836, as verified by the Tennessee Department of Labor and Workforce Development Wage Report dated December 31st, 2024. This payment represents the first of 5 grant payments toward a maximum total of $205,000 incentive in accordance with the December 2nd, 2024 Industrial Development Board Project Grant Agreement to support electrical infrastructure growth and talent pool development. The High Growth, High Jobs Investment Jobs Grant is paid out over 5 years with the verification of the creation and retention of jobs each year.
Correct. Okay, board, I included in your packet the staff report. Staff's recommending approval of this item. It's allowed under the Tennessee state statute. Again, we're looking at 753-302A8. It aligns with the One Chattanooga Economic Development Plan for building a regional economy, attracting higher-paying jobs with targeted economic recruiting. It corresponds with the Chattanooga Climbs Higher Plan, again, creating more high-quality jobs and developing skills for the new economy. Summary of need. This was as a result of the new high-growth, high-jobs program that was created here at the IDB. It's in recognition of the need to incentivize companies for retention and expansion here where they're not eligible for pilots. We anticipate having more of these come forward, recognizing as we have less industrial space for development here in the city of Chattanooga and greater Hamilton County, some of that being the conversion of industrial development land into land for housing. We've lost some of that. So we're starting to see a shift in recruitment of smaller companies with smaller footprints, but smaller number of jobs and higher wages. And so this falls within that. As of December 31st, 2024, the company's on track with job creation and capital investment. They've got 1.6 million, $1,062,330 in capital investment completed and 18 new jobs with an average wage of $59,836. So the company has exceeded its 2024 commitments. This would be the first of 5 payments, and you'll see this one is $9,376. The county will pitch in and match with the other half of that. We will come back again in 2026 with an additional request. That's going to be $30,625. And then the way we set this up was to come before the board each year, typically in March or April. We then verify the job. So this was in the agreement, it said we would bring this to you in March. We have to verify the jobs and then confirm the retention and the new creation jobs, and then we bring it forward. Future agreements, we will probably write into the agreement that we will submit the payment without coming back to the board, but then we'll provide a report to you. So while this was eligible, we had to come to you to ask for payment. Moving forward, we will write into the agreement that staff will confirm the jobs and make the payment and then report to the board. And so we're asking for approval of this. We've got a return on investment of this one, and then the grants funded from the Economic Development Fee account. And again, that's the account that has the $2.8 million in it, and we're asking for $9,375 out of it. So we'll just need a motion to approve or deny.
Ms. Allen, if I may. Where, how did AIS come to know about this? Did we seek them out to tell them this is available, or did they know about it and come and apply for it? Is this the first is this the first we've seen of AIS?
This is a discretionary grant that came through the chamber. And so if the chamber would like to speak to how AIS came to be, let them.
Good morning, everyone. Adam Myers, I'm Vice President of Economic Development of the Chattanooga Chamber. How this project came to be, working very closely with both city and the county. This was a competitive project that came to the chamber through a site selection consultant where the company was looking at multiple locations for where they could expand. So knowing that this project not eligible for typical pilot, we were looking at the creation of how do we leverage new tools with what is available out there. So we worked really hand in hand with Sharita and the staff at the city of Chattanooga to kind of create this program specialized for this project. But as we see more projects like this, be able to use this program in the future. So the offer letter to the company originally came from both mayors for the project.
So AIS is a corporation with multiple offices scattered around. Correct. And they decided to expand here.
Correct.
Because of this piece.
That is correct.
Okay.
Mr. Myers, I noticed this is a Delaware limited liability company. Are they in good standing with Delaware and the state of Tennessee?
Yes, they're in good standing overall, state of Tennessee with their federal corporation. A lot of companies do tend to incorporate in Delaware. It does not mean that they have a presence necessarily in Delaware. I believe this company has presences in Texas, and I want to say potentially South Carolina, as who we're competing with for the project. And originally, this agreement had come before the board, I believe in December, when it was approved.
I recall the name.
Any other questions? Not, we'll hear a motion. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Our next item is a resolution authorizing up to $70,000 to provide matching funds with the city of Chattanooga for a site selector-led competitive analysis for Chattanooga's key traded industry target sectors as identified in the Chattanooga Chamber of Commerce Climbs Higher Strategic Plan with funding from NR 16Z 00308 for business development activities.
Terrific, thank you. Again, staff is recommending approval of this final item on our agenda today. It aligns with the economic development plans for both the city, the One Chattanooga Plan, and the Chamber's Chattanooga Clients Plan. It outlines the need for additional studies as our economy starts to shift. We want to do that research, and we'll have the chamber comment on sort of why and how this will happen. And then the last piece is the fiscal impact, and there would be an accompanying resolution to that to fund the account. And so the request will be funded by, there's $25,000 from the business development account. That was an account that was created here at the IDB in 2016. That was for business development. So moving forward, it could be used for consultant fees, it could be used for studies, it could be used for research if the board wants to visit a particular project. All of those kinds of things come under business development. So an additional $50,000 would be transferred from the IDB economic development fee accounts. That would be from NR 14 to NR 16 for business development in order to fund this request. And this request is for up to $75,000. The county has been asked to participate in this as well. So depending on how much the county puts in, the IDB would then come in and fund up to that particular match. And Adam, if you would like to say a few words about the research, that would be great.
Good afternoon again. So similar to kind of some of the conversations that have even been happening in this meeting, one of the things as we've been working with Mayor Kelly and the team is identifying that in the One Chattanooga Plan, there is a section there that talks about building a strong regional economy, and one of the priorities is redefining our competitive advantage with our traded industry clusters. So those traded industry clusters are the clusters that where their sales are not based from here. They're selling from outside the market and are typically the target industries that we are either trying to recruit here or help grow and expand. We would like to use the study to really have an actual site selection consultant. They are groups of people and firms that are in charge of helping corporations make location decisions, be able to review our overall competitive advantages with regards to our target industry sectors, where they will look at us and see how we score compared to peer markets on things like workforce, on things like infrastructure, on our key assets in the region to show where we're going to be strong at, where we're going to be weak at. And so that way, as we look to the creation of potential future programs, as I believe the board had brought up, for example, the pilot funds, they have sat there for a long time without really any activity. This type of study would be able to use to enhance what could those funds be going towards that would help make us more regionally economic competitive. So the city of Chattanooga has already committed through their budgeting process for additional support for the project. The IDB, that's why we were asking for an up to amount, is because we're looking at the overall cost, bidding out the project right now, and also asking Hamilton County for additional support too. At the end of the day, we expect this process to take about 6 to 8 months. It will not only review our traded industry clusters with how we are competitive, but it'll also review our overall incentive policies throughout the community to see how we are competitive, how we compare really peer-to-peer market-wise, and also make some recommendations potentially as well. And then lastly, I would say we are not looking to do this really in a vacuum. We will likely probably establish a committee where a member from each organization, each government body, City of Chattanooga, the Industrial Development Board, Hamilton County, would all be sitting on this in terms of going through the study, going through the purpose. And our goal would then be to bring this study back to the board to be able to highlight and show everyone how we are competitive. And then we can start taking action from there.
If I may, Mr. Price, how does this request for this funding, why is this necessary after, and you can correct me here, but with all the pilot policies that we discussed for a good while, that if I recall, it had the matrix and whatever, and in that document, we collectively identified target industries, and yet now this appears to me to be somewhat related, having industry target sectors. How does this differ and why is it necessary?
So this is going to take a look at the same target industries that are in those pilot policies, go beyond just the overall what type of incentives we need, but overall from a marketing standpoint, from really a focus standpoint, where are we missing gaps to be able to recruit these type of companies and support these type of companies?
And who, up to $70,000, who is the recipient of the funds from the Industrial Development Board if this passes?
That would be the Chattanooga Chamber Foundation, because the city has been able to contract with us for one-time funding for this study's purpose. Mayor Kelly was the one who specifically was asking us to undertake this study, typically because economies are looked at more of a regional scale, and so us being able to partner with Hamilton County, being able to partner with the city, as well as even the private sector, being able to look into this.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Melanie?
Has Hamilton County committed?
Hamilton
anything?
County has expressed interest in funding the study. They have not committed to an exact dollar amount right now, which is why for this request, we put an up to amount in there.
Will the final amount just be split 3 ways?
That's what we're hoping for. We've anticipated the study could cost anywhere from about $140,000 to potentially a little bit more.
Adam, one question. Is Hamilton County one of the housing opportunity counties under state law here that can utilize the ability to have this type of funding?
I'm not sure I know the answer to that, sir, with regards to the housing. I apologize, what was the term again?
Yeah, there's a statute under TCA 753, 318, that refers to housing opportunity counties. I just wanted to know if we're included.
I would have to look into that. I apologize, I'm not aware of that
Okay,
statute.
sir. All right, sir. We'll be looking before the next meeting. Okay.
Mr. Bill, would that prohibit the county from participating in this?
No, it would allow the city to be able to provide those grant funds here in connection with this because it's a housing opportunity county. That's one of our earlier questions here. It would not prohibit the county from participating, no.
Melanie, did you have a question?
He answered it with the total budget.
If there's no questions, we'll have a motion.
Motion to move.
Motion. Is there a second?
Second.
In favor?
Okay.
Thank you. Our last item is transfer funds, pilot funds to the business development account. So a resolution authorizing the transfer of $50,000 from the Industrial Development Board IDP pilot fund account NR 14Z00306 to the IDB business development account NR 16. The business development account was created by the IDB to cover economic development related services and fees necessary for administering programs and initiatives.
Board, again, this is an administrative item that's related to the accounting of funds to make sure that the board is always aware when it's voting on items from which funding account items are being withdrawn and where those are being sent, and then how those are being spent. And again, moving forward, I'm working closely with Eleanor Liu, who is the financial analyst for the IDB, just to make sure she reviews all of these items just to say, hey, where are you getting this money? And hey, where is it going? And how do we want to track it? Just to make sure that we're very consistent moving forward with how the monies are spent and from which funds they're being pulled. So, administrative item.
Okay. Any questions about this item?
Where did this dollar figure come up from? Is this a one-time payment or a reoccurring annual payment that you're asking?
It's currently a one-time thing. And so again, this is where in 2016, the IDB board at that time funded all of the accounts once a year. And this account had a balance in it, but not enough to cover this particular request. So we're moving monies over to be able to fund this request.
So has this been funded historically? And I'm just trying to say, I mean, has the board presented any funds to do exactly what you're asking, development-related services and fees? I mean, I've been here 4 or 5 years, and this is the first I've ever seen it. Was this ever been funded in the past, and why today?
It has not. And so in 2016, the IDB, the board at the time created this business development account, put $50,000 in it, thinking we might need it for a foundry sand assessment or application for a grant for brownfield remediation, any of those, but it was never used, and so it's sitting in this account. So when we talk about, for instance, there being 2.8 million in economic development fees, we also have funds in these other accounts that were allocated in previous years that have not been drawn down. And so this had an existing 25,000 in it from 2016 that has never been spent, and now we're adding 50,000 to it in order to meet this up to $75,000 request.
Ms. Allen, help us out just in a general sense. Why is it necessary for us as a board to have these multiple accounts as opposed to just one, for instance? Help us understand that, if you would. Just
Yeah, that would be a finance, I would have finance weigh in on that. But historically, the way it was used in 2016 through 2018, it was January 1 of every year, July 1, the staff would bring to the board an overview of existing programs, and staff would say, under small business programs, we anticipate 15 small business grants this year. The average small business grant is $10,000. As a result, we want to fund that account with $150,000 to be able to facilitate all of those projects. We would anticipate, for instance, because of the activity that was happening in the Innovation District, we're asking the city to move over $200,000 because of the grants we anticipate coming in. That was how it worked then, which was there was an annual plan of business, and there was a corresponding budget that was put together for those different accounts and programs, and then we would work against that every year. And that would leave a balance, which is why you have a balance in some of those accounts. We do not have to do it that way moving forward, but it also provided buckets that were clearly defined. So when an item came in, like the item for Renew Chattanooga that we heard earlier, the presentation from the Housing Authority, there was an account that was created called Renew Chattanooga that would allow us to do things in disadvantaged communities or blighted projects or vacant lots. Again, we created sort of those verticals and then funded them. We have not operated that way. The board has not operated that way probably since 2018. 2019, probably around COVID, things kind of changed. And so it's just been, as a request comes up, we sort of entertain the request, the agenda item, then we figure out the funding, and then we come make the request.
So just to clarify, this 50 under line item number 10, this 50 is funding the 7 that we voted on number 9, is that correct? Or is this two different, I apologize.
Oh,
Is this
no,
two
the-
different,
Right, the 50 is funding the up to, 70,000, yes,
okay, and you've mentioned 75, so there's about 25 in the current balance?
correct,
Okay, so this 50 will top it off to give you enough to cover. 70.
correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Does, I guess to kind of build on that question, does the board get like an annual financial report or
It does.
something that just kind of lets us know what we've done and where the balances are and how many accounts we have?
Correct, and so I believe the board, at the previous board meeting, the board had an accounting, and so quarterly, the board receives the status of all of these funds, and then July 1 of every year, once everything's reconciled, June 30th, July 1 of every year, there's a presentation that goes over all the accounts and the funds.
It has to be given to the state.
Correct.
Okay, we'll entertain a motion.
Motion.
Is there a second? All those in favor? Thank you. Is there any other business or discussion items today for the board?
Oh, I do have an introduction I would like to make. And so the city of Chattanooga hired our new Director of Workforce Development Strategy, Andrew Hudson, who joins us, and he'll just come up and introduce himself. That would be great. So he will be working with us moving forward on verification of jobs related to pilots. He will also be working on pilot reporting moving forward. So if there's a pilot that's creating jobs, what does the associated reporting look like so that we know when the agreement's signed, what that company's going to be held to as far as the job creation and the wages and the pathways related to those. And then he'll also be working on apprenticeship incentives and then looking at other incentives that are related to job creation to fall under your current small business and innovation grant programs.
Good morning. It's good to see you all again. I was here last year working in the capacity of a nonprofit, and so I've been working for the last 2 years in workforce development here in Chattanooga, previously with Chattanooga 2.0, and happy to continue working in this space. As Sharita mentioned, we're really excited to make sure that our economic development is tied in closely with those jobs that are being created, making sure that more Chattanoogans get access to those jobs, and also making sure that we're getting the most out of those. So I'm very excited to be here and look forward to having many conversations with you.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, we will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, we're adjourned. Thank you.
A lot on the agenda.